I've saved your daughter, handed over the formula, and pulled Mr. Welsh Sr. from the brink of death, all for the Welsh family. And yet, you're turning on me now. If word gets out, what will that do to your family's reputation?" His words sent a shiver down Alistair's spine, and the others squirmed. Alistair had orchestrated the poisoning to protect his family's reputation as a backup plan in case things went south. But with Fever dead, openly confronting Dustin posed a risk of leaving themselves vulnerable. The reputation of the Welsh family would be tarnished if it became known that they had committed murder and repaid kindness with enmity. After careful consideration, Alistair ultimately chose to step back for the time being. "Joanne, what's running through that mind of yours? Dr. Rees has done us a great favor. How can you be ungrateful?" Alistair scolded his wife before pushing aside the two martial artists blocking Dustin's path. Then he smiled at Dustin. "Dr. Rees, I'm sorry about my wife's outburst earlier. She was just worried about my dad's health. Her words may have come out a bit too strong. Please accept our apologies." In certain scenarios, this husband-wife duo had their roles well defined. One played the good cop, while the other the bad cop. If threats were effective, they used them. If not, they preferred to avoid a public confrontation. Dustin taunted with a smirk. "It seems there are still some sane folks in the Welsh family after all. I was starting to think you'd all lost your minds." Joanne was about to respond, but Alistair silenced her with a knowing look. Alistair interrupted, "Dr. Rees, we deeply appreciate your kindness. If you have any requests, please don't hesitate to ask. I'll do my best to fulfill your wishes as long as it's within my power." "No need for that." Dustin scoffed. "I'm not fishing for gratitude. Farewell." With that, he left with a frosty demeanor. Alistair's decision to back down prevented what could have been a heated confrontation. Dustin had always been straightforward, and he hadn't anticipated ungratefulness from the Welsh family. It appeared that Dustin now had to seek out a new ally, as he was resolute in not allowing them to gain any advantage from the Jew balm. "Alistair, why did you stop me earlier?" Joanne asked. She frowned as she watched Dustin leave, displeased. Alistair responded with a measured tone, "Joanne, you possess many admirable qualities: intelligence, competence, resourcefulness. But you tend to act on impulse. Taking down a punk may be simple, but if it tarnishes our family's reputation, it's not worth it. Some matters are better resolved quietly and discreetly to avoid unnecessary trouble." "I understand what to do now," Joanne nodded. "Let's forget this minor hiccup," Alistair decided. "Joaquin, handle it discreetly and leave no traces." "Understood," Joaquin affirmed before departing. Meanwhile, outside the Welsh residence, Dustin had just settled into his car when his phone rang. Brooke's voice sounded urgent on the other end. "Dustin, something terrible has happened. Harmony Healers are on fire." "On fire? What's going on?" Dustin inquired, puzzled. "I went for my morning stroll, and when I returned, Harmony Healers was suddenly engulfed in flames. It's burning now." Brooke's voice quivered. "What? It's on fire?" Dustin's expression paled. He quickly asked, "What about Mr. Schaffer? Is he okay?" "The fire started on the first floor, and Sinner is still on the third floor. I can't get up there. I'm waiting for help." "Call for help right now. I'm on my way," Dustin said urgently before hanging up the phone. He floored the gas pedal and raced toward Harmony Healers. With no time to waste, he ran the red lights, zipping like a lightning bolt. A drive that usually took 20 minutes became a 10-minute drive instead. When he arrived at the scene, the fire department was still on its way. Harmony Healers stood engulfed in a furious blaze. The first floor was gone, and the flames were creeping up to the second floor. Despite neighbors helping with water buckets, their efforts felt like a drop in the ocean. At this rate, the fire would reach the third floor in less than 5 minutes. "Quick! We need more help!" Brooke shouted, holding a fire extinguisher in his hand and spraying it frantically. His clothes were in tatters, his face smudged with soot, and he had burns on his skin. He looked absolutely worn out. "Dr. Bush, is Mr. Schaffer safe? Sinner is still inside, and the fire has gotten out of control. We've done all we can, but we can't put it out." What should we do? Brooke's face twisted with anxiety and panic. His extinguisher ran dry, leaving him helpless against the raging inferno. I'm going in to save him. Dustin didn't waste time talking. After taking a deep breath, he charged into the raging fire. Dustin, have you gone mad? Get out of there. You'll die. Brooke was taken aback, yelling in shock. But the flames had already swallowed Dustin, and Brooke sighed heavily. It's all over. Everything is ruined now. Oh my God. Did someone just go in? Who's crazy enough to do that? Did you really see that? Who'd dare to dive into this massive fire? They're practically asking for death. I saw it too. Someone went in. That's insane. Dustin's fearless act left the onlookers speechless, temporarily forgetting the fire. As the seconds ticked away, the fire roared on. The second floor had crumbled, and the flames were on the march to the third. The searing heat forced firefighters and volunteers to retreat. Everyone knew that the Harmony healers were beyond saving. The fire had burned down the finest clinic in South City, and the whole town watched in sorrow as it turned to ashes. Just then, 2 fire trucks finally pulled up. Firefighters spilled out, and Brooke hurried toward them as if he'd found saviors. He was limping, his face dirty and covered in burns. Quick, there are 2 people inside. Please, you have to help them. There are people inside. The firefighters gazed at the flames consuming Harmony healers and fell silent. With a fire this big, anyone inside had slim chances of survival. Their priority was containing the damage. Why aren't you going inside? There are still people in there. Save them. Sir, we'll do our best to rescue them. But you must understand, with a fire this size, anyone inside is unlikely to survive. A firefighter spoke with regret. As he spoke, there was a loud crash, and a window on the 3rd floor shattered. Then, a figure wreathed in flames leaped from the 3rd floor, clutching a soaking wet blanket. His fearless descent was like a scene from an action movie. Engulfed in flames, Dustin leaped high into the air before landing heavily on the ground. The resounding impact left several deep cracks under his feet. A gust of wind swept over him, extinguishing the flames that had clocked his body. They could see white mist rising from his skin. It looked straight out of a movie. What in the world? The crowd stood in utter shock at the incredible scene they had just witnessed. Even the firefighters were rendered speechless. No one had expected a person to emerge unscathed from the raging fire, especially not after jumping from the 3rd floor. His crazy and daring actions left everyone astonished. Am I seeing things? The guy that went in actually made it out alive. Not only did he survive, he even rescued someone. Oh my God. Who the hell is this guy? Even fire can't harm him. This is out of this world. After a brief moment of silence, the crowd commented excitedly over the scene. Everyone looked at Dustin as if he were some sort of monster. Dustin? Why you unharmed? Brooke stammered in disbelief. I was lucky. I managed to escape before the fire became too intense. As he spoke, he placed a wet and smoldering quilt gently on the floor. Although it was emitting smoke, it wasn't engulfed in flames. Unwrapping the quilt, it revealed Cinna lying motionless inside. Even though his breathing was weak, he was unharmed. Thank God. Cinna is safe. Brooke exclaimed as he wept tears of joy. He had thought Cinna was beyond saving. He never expected Dustin to show such incredible bravery, charging into the raging flames to save him. After Dustin checked on Cinna's condition and placed him in the car, he turned his attention back to Brooke. He asked, Dr. Bush, how did Harmony healers suddenly catch fire? I don't know either. I had just stepped out for a moment when the fire started. Brooke shook his head. Every morning at the break of dawn, he would take a short stroll in the nearby park as a form of exercise. It was never more than half an hour. He never encountered any problems all these years. However, Harmony healers had broken out in a fire upon his return today. What time do you typically open? Dustin asked again.